Yay!
But it works. I accept that. Well, that was nearly a disaster.
Oh, we're here in the end. That's fine. Oh, good.
Oh,
it's all right.
Yeah.
I don't think I've watched many Instagram lives where there hasn't been some technical difficulty. So
yeah, that is explicable. Oh well, here we are.
We're here now. Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, so we've got 25 watches, which is great. I'm glad everyone's jumped back in.
Thank you.
Yes, so I think let's get started. First of all, I'm just going to introduce and tell everyone a little bit about East Meets West for anyone that doesn't know. So East Meets West is a masterclass run in collaboration with Format, who I work for, Quad, who I also work with for, and Grain in Birmingham. So Format and Quad are in Derby, and yet Grain is in Birmingham. And the masterclass, so this year we've got 15 participants. The masterclass is run from October until, well, it was meant to be April, but we're still going due to current circumstances, and we run a series of masterclass sessions where we have industry professionals that talk to our participants about kind of really interesting and kind of important subjects that allow them to develop and develop their career and their practice. They get portfolio reviews and talks from industry professionals. So it's a really amazing program to be part of. And hi Nicola from Grain. So yeah, it's really, really brilliant. And we're coming to the end. We've got one more session left, which is going to be really good. It's going to be an online session. That's going to be interesting for everyone. So now I think I will introduce you, Jacqui, and we'll get into it. So Jacqui is one of our participants this year, and your group's been so great. You've really kind of taken on the challenges of COVID really well, and you've put together a brilliant website. Yeah, you've worked together so well, and then to kind of initiate this In Conversation live series has been really good, and it's kept you all going and kind of kept some momentum between you all, and I think that's really important. So Jacqui Booth is a photographer so you use the landscape to reflect your personal experiences. And you're interested in conveying thoughts and emotions by engaging with the landscape, telling your story, and giving your viewers the space to feel and express themselves. So you work with film and digital, and your work really reflects your love for the wilder places in the UK. And most of your excursions begin with an OS map, starting on the edgelands and looking towards the wilderness and the lost places. And then on your website, you've got a really nice quote, which I'm going to read out. I feel the land is just about the only place that allows you to draw your own interpretation. The contours of the land, the ruined traces of humanity that pervade it, and the foliage covering it are mute. Even the prevailing environmental factors have no voice really, other than the stories people have applied through folklore and literature. I aim to make it a space afresh, be it a howl, whisper or lullaby. Or I aim to make it speak afresh. So that's a really, really nice quote. And I think maybe let's start by telling everyone and discussing kind of how you got into photography and your path into it, and what kind of drew you to maybe the East Meets West Masterclass.
Okay, well, when I got into photography, I had no background at all, no education in it other than an art GCSE. I had very little sort of artistic input into my life. And thinking about it, I think it was probably record covers and maybe the Sunday Times magazine that allowed me to look at stuff. So I was particularly pleased when Monica Allende came along, and I was like a little bit excited that day when she came along to talk to the masterclass. It was good to speak.
It was really great.
I liked taking photos, but it was, the digital camera, and particularly an SLR, was something that other people had. But I got myself a 1000D, cheapest Canon, entry level, started using that, kind of really enjoyed it, found it really, really absorbing. Started was taking more and more photos, and then finding that that particular camera didn't do what I wanted it to do anymore. But somehow I just couldn't really justify buying a more professional camera.
Yeah.
But I got to grips. I used to work for Netmums, and they realised that I could take a few photos. And for a little while, I worked doing food photography for them, which was really great. Just from everything from writing the recipes, putting them on the web page, doing the photos and stuff like that. It was just before the internet got completely deluged with photos, so this was quite unusual then. And through that, I earned a little bit of money, and managed to put a down payment on a 7D, which I found that I loved. It did what I wanted it to do. I definitely wanted that camera. That said, I'll take photos of the tin can as well. So it varies, but that gave me the freedom to take the quality of photos that I wanted to do in the light conditions. I generally like the darker conditions. And yeah, I started to, our holidays took a focus of where can we go to take some photos, rather than what are we going to do on holiday. And I loved the countryside. I'd already sort of like been around the country looking for stone circles and bits and bobs and stuff like that, and it was just a natural, okay, where should we go? So I think the first set of photos that I did that were exhibited and started to attract a bit of interest were taken in Scotland, which was a particularly desolate holiday. I was ill throughout it, and it was freezing, and I just found the weirdest places that I could, and off we went. And this was as a family, so despite the fact that the photos look possibly quite isolated, there are two small children bouncing around in them as well. So this, we spoke the other day about the challenges of taking photos now. Yeah, they were there all along, just out of shot. So yeah, I was lucky that at that point I made a website. Obviously, working for Netmums meant I could cobble one together myself. Yeah. The Inside the Outside group were kind enough to allow me to, I think I might have done a first or second article, that they're a collective based in the UK, and they do sort of like alternative landscape photography. It's very much thought through and in line with my way of taking photos. And eventually they had an exhibition in Nottingham, which I was part of. That was at the Photo Parlour, which is a lovely dark room in Nottingham. Yeah, that went from Nottingham, eventually went to London, which was quite interesting. I've been lucky to be supported by some great people. I also got to know Tim Andrews, who is a gentleman who found out he had Parkinson's and responded by getting everybody to photograph him. And he's been a great supporter over the years. In time, I decided that I wanted to know more, and I felt that I wanted to have more sort of more of an academic understanding, maybe fill in some educational gaps. But I didn't do that normally either. Instead of like doing a BA, because I simply didn't have time with the responsibilities of looking after children. I went straight and did an MA at the local university, and thoroughly enjoyed it. I learned a lot in a short period of time. I'd love to have had the time to do, foundation, BA, MA, but it wasn't going to happen for me. So I did what I could in my circumstances. They accepted me on the MA course, and I graduated earlier this year, which was a surreal experience, because by that point I was back at work in a staff shop in a factory. So I was, sort of one hand, having this lovely ceremony, and the other hand, get back to work and do that. So since then, I've tried to combine both photography and look, supporting my family basically. And it's all gone a little squiff since lockdown, but for East meets West, I think it's worked out rather well, because instead of having an exhibition, which is a bit sort of like of a flash in the pan, basically, because you need to publicise it, and not many people can actually physically make it. Now we've got a website, which is, I think it's eastmeetswestphoto.co.uk.
Yeah, I'm sure someone can put it in the comments.
I'm sure they can. And these talks, which as a group, we've got to know each other so much better. It's great. So yeah, it's
that's
a good outcome.
Yeah, you've definitely, as a group, made the most of it. Obviously, you were all due to have an exhibition in the format 20 off year, and that didn't happen. But yeah, you really have made the most of it. I think it'd be really good to talk about one of your series, maybe Roundabouts. I think we were going to discuss and kind of tell people more about your work. Don't know if we can show anything. I think you said you have some around you, but
I do. I mean, just in case I don't get a chance to do this later, I did a post on my website under the journal section, which basically discusses in sort of more depth my thoughts behind the series. So I'll turn this round. So there's the story of Roundabout, as I've just mentioned. So I'll just flick through the pictures. I think that's probably the best bet.
Yeah, no, it's good to see them.
Yeah, this basically, although I love to travel around the country, and I learnt to drive and immediately went to Cornwall to see Tim, who I mentioned earlier, I soon became quite anxious as a result of my responsibilities. Somebody drove into the back of me, which didn't help, and many other stresses and strains meant that financial strains also meant that I couldn't travel. I ended up stuck in Leicester, which is kind of a nice place to live, but it's not that inspiring. So I looked around, got back to my maps, I looked for green spots. Now we have Bradgate Park, we have various council-owned places, but there's not much in terms of sort of freedom. It's all owned, it's all pay your fee, stay for a little while, please go home before dusk. So I started looking around for an alternative, and literally one of the only places that I felt was, it made me nervous, but it's safe to go to, was a roundabout near me. And as you can see, it's big enough to have quite a few different opportunities for photos on it. So I plucked up enough courage to walk in front of all the traffic. Everybody looked at me, climbed over the hostile landscaping, which is there to stop travellers from staying on the roundabout, and plopped into this land. And I keep popping back and taking photos there and making the best of what is, you know, essentially an urban situation. I'm surrounded by traffic, and that's basically how it goes. I found a little bit of green patch, a little sanctuary that I could use. So yeah, I eventually I did this as part of my MA. I decided that when it came to displaying it, I didn't really want to display it in frames. My MA was in fine arts, and I wanted to try something a little bit different. So in this part of it, I used some wood. I just wandered into the garage one day and I thought, oh look, there's some hardwood there. You know, it's a little bit messy. It had to be cut up. I didn't say in my MA that it was to fit in the car, but it was to fit in the car. that's why it's that shape. It's jigsawed together. That one didn't fit in the car. I had to borrow my sister's transit van for that one. But as well as looking into different ways of finding ways to do landscape photography in an urban environment, I also looked at different ways to display it, which is quite satisfying. I also tend to use tarpaulins. This is from a slightly different subject, and had a brilliant time basically picking up a concrete covered tarpaulin and hauling it to the top of Two Queens in Leicester, and trying to hold on, I can't find myself now. This is great.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Hello. Ancient talcum powder thing, holding my camera up. They're so classic. So that's got a story as well. That might end up into my photos at some point, but that's something that's percolating away right now. So yeah, that's basically, it's, the Roundabout is just almost a desperate attempt to find some green space, which I miss. I grew up in Derbyshire, so an evening my dad, on the best nights of my childhood, would take me, would take the whole family into Derbyshire. You know, my grandma and granddad would walk there with their family, and it was a wrench to leave it, and I'd like to go back more often. But I'm not there. I'm in Leicester, and I will make the best of it for the time being. And hilariously now, I can't leave Leicester.
Yeah, because we're back in lockdown.
We're back in lockdown. So whereas before the whole country was in lockdown, and I could go to the next village, I could probably find my way back into the parks and stuff around here, to be fair. But yeah, there's like an invisible dome dropped on us, and I'm not supposed to. So it's you've got to laugh at the situation in terms of freedom and stuff. I mean, obviously, it's a serious situation that's we've responded to in order to keep us healthy. But in terms of our freedom, I find it amazing what the government has been able to make us do, and how we've complied with it, how I've complied with it, because I'm terrible at complying with rules. We spoke about how how many times I've been caught trespassing on land and things like that. How many places I can't go back to because, you know, there's a bridge near me I used to visit, they've blocked it off. There's a quarry and an amazing place even further than the quarry underneath the M1. Massive great fences. It's like they knew I was, you know, they know I've been. I'm not going to get there again. You know, if somebody can find me a really.
Do you think that the kind of these places that because you talk about trespassing and these places that have now been blocked off, do you find that they're the places that really you connect with, the places that you maybe shouldn't be, or these green spaces that haven't been seen by the masses, that are a bit more private and maybe not meant to be seen? Do you like to focus in on those?
I think so. They tend to be a little bit wilder. I mean, Scotland's fabulous for it because there's so many areas that not managed. I remember taking both kids along this tree trunk, and I honestly didn't know there was anything below us. It was so overgrown. I was thinking, maybe I've gone a little too far now. So, and that was beautiful. In Wales, we went to campsites, and the kids and I headed off way too late. I'm also famous for going walking and not getting back before nightfall. And we ended up walking along this ridge in this wildly overgrown area. It was absolutely beautiful. That was one of the few times I'd had to admit defeat and retrace my steps because we were going to be in there all night. Tried to walk the next day with my sister, scared the living daylights out of her. She's like, we can't do this, we've got to go back. I'm like, yeah, maybe, we have got a baby with us after all. Yeah, we got back safe and sound. But yeah, I tend to, you know, once I start walking, I'm off. It's like, we'll be fine. Yeah. Okay.
And you say that you find that the landscape reflects your kind of personal experiences. Do you find that do you find that you focus on different kinds of landscapes because of that, or why is it that you photograph different types of landscapes?
I almost certainly choose places that are isolated and more desolate. Certainly, at the time that I started working in this way, I had some big decisions to make personally, and I wasn't particularly happy. I'd suffered from depression. I'd taken a year of antidepressants, really didn't suit me. They closed I felt like I made my mind numb. I didn't like it one little bit. I wanted it back. But in order to get it back, I had to become stronger myself. And that's happened over time. I've made some pretty large changes. I look back over the last 3 years, and it's no wonder I'm a smidge stressed. But I've also had some absolutely brilliant times. But at the beginning of that time, I was definitely trying to somehow make sense of how I felt through my photos. And I think that's probably, I don't feel like I'm producing quite necessarily what I want to now. I love Roundabout, and I've explored trying to make the photography less personal and trying to make it have a wider social context. And there's been a little bit of a tussle in my mind as to whether I need to do that, whether it can still be personal, how much it should be personal. I think I've come to the conclusion that, yeah, it's going to be personal. And I need to sort of like own my own feelings, and
yeah, definitely.
That is the way that I will produce pictures. But there's been a lot of changes as well. So I'd like to immerse myself back into it a lot more than I do. It's incredibly time consuming, you know. Even working digitally, come back, I process my photos in not to a massive degree. I'd never process a photo in order to save it. There's no point. But the way that I treat them, the way that I present them, the way I talk about them takes a long time. And I'm dismayed at the amount of time I'm spending cooking, sorting things out, gardening, painting the house, things like that. It's a constant it's a constant sort of weighing up of what I need to do most. And I thought I'd cracked it recently, but lockdown and developments with my children has meant that I'm concentrating my efforts in different areas again. So but I've loved preparing for this. It's I've probably done more work on my website today than I have in a while, because all of a sudden it seemed really pertinent. So I think I just need to get that headset back again. You know, it's important to me. And I'd like to continue making photos and learning and reading. I read a lot around the subjects. Say Rebecca Solnit is excellent. And I always pop a number of books on my website because I'll never remember what they are. Yeah, but I was particularly glad that I read Concrete Island by J.G. Ballard after I started visiting the Roundabout, so I may never have set foot on it. Yeah, writing and literature is an important part of it for me as well.
Yeah, someone said here that I feel your struggle, always jobs and stuff that needs to be done. And I think it's true that it's a struggle for a lot of photographers at all stages of their career, balancing kind of real life and your commitment and your focus on your photography and finding the time. But yeah, you're definitely not alone in that, and it's just finding those little pockets of time that that you can focus on it. And like this, you might get that little bit of momentum going, and that might just be enough to get a few bits done that you wanted to. So so what do you think is next? What projects are you wanting to focus on next?
I think I will still be at the Roundabout for a little while.
That's not finished. Yeah, keep going.
it off. They'll find some way. I imagine the police helicopter that's out a lot at the moment just coming down and landing on one day. But hey ho, until then, I'll be there.
Keep going, definitely.
I am interested in ideas about access to the countryside. I mean, I love Faye Godwin's work. I didn't realise that she'd inadvertently influenced me through people that photographers that I knew personally. In a way, it wasn't until I went to university that I was asked to find out, you know, what my influences were. And I feel that at the end of her career, she was becoming quite interested. I would love to have known what would have happened had she been able to work for longer, had she lived for longer, because she was interested in ideas of access to the countryside. And I'd like to look at that, not necessarily, you know, taking photos of signs saying do not enter, that's very simplistic, but finding a different way to continue to communicate my frustration at living in a very overpopulated area where I was going to say that I can't get out and not hear traffic noise, but it's been beautiful in lockdown because I've sat in the garden. It's been so quiet. Yeah, this is possible. It's possible to live this way. It's just that you know, it's just going to ramp back up again, and I'm going to be, you know, fasten my windows tight to get rid of the traffic noise again. But it's just sort of a quest for some sort of calm, some sort of peace, really. It's very difficult to get, not only physically but emotionally as well. You know, we've got so many pulls on our lives, so we get, you know, just tugged back and forth. You know, you should do this, you should do that. I can't even sit at my desk without thinking, oh, I should be doing this, or so and so expects me to do this, or the world at a whole, or I've put my own demands on myself, and I need to examine those and see which are actually relevant, because a lot of just crazy ideas that I've got from childhood that not really needed anymore. So there's been a lot of sort of like there's a lot of introspection involved, which I'm finding tricky. I live with two boys who are 19 and 16, both neurodivergent, and it leads for, you know, it means that I need to be there for them in some way, shape or form most of the time. And you know, the time, there's not much time for me to get my head down and concentrate and really immerse myself in a train of thought before I hear an electric guitar or a drum kit. The drum kit's right above my head. It's crazy. My neighbours are so good at not actually tearing the front door down and but one has lent me a sewing machine so that I can put some curtains up to make it quieter. So yeah, we have a very chaotic sort of time sometimes, but as well, you know, one that could lend itself to this. My younger son is engaged in a project with me. When I'm not satisfied with the amount of work I've done on that recently, but I wanted to explore the mother-son relationship, which I'm sure has been done before, but you know, we started when he was 13, when he looked so different. He was all little cute and stuff like that. Now he's a bloke. And he's quite punky, and he has his own style. And at the beginning of it, I certainly didn't know him very well. We'd parted ways. We've actually got to know each other better over lockdown because we've all been stuck in the house, and thankfully it's worked out okay. So we won't need to do a lot of sitting, talking and writing together. So I'm looking forward to doing that. He's keen on putting music with it and maybe doing videos as well. So that's fantastic. And I'm also looking forward to further collaborations with colleagues from university, Chris Trigg and Susan Knox in particular. Chris and I has got an exhibition planned. We still want to do that. And Susan does excellent glasswork, which I photographed for her in the forests, and at the same time I was able to do some really abstract stuff. So you can't quite tell it's her glass, and it's another way. I found it a really interesting way of expressing myself by using just black and white abstracts. So I'm hoping that's going to develop into something as well.
Yeah, no, I think it sounds like kind of new experimentation and really immersing yourself in projects is kind of like the way that you work well, and how you kind of can move forward with your projects. I think the one with your son sounds really, really interesting, and this has definitely been a time for people to kind of learn more about their family, because we have been forced with people that we probably don't spend that much time with because lives make it not possible. But
and also getting back to the dark room as well. I've gotten a large on the dining room table at the moment. So yeah.
Oh, amazing! Oh, that's brilliant. I think it'd be good to see if there's any questions from anyone that's watching. Do have one question from Thomas that says, when you're processing images, do you consider how the images might be voyeuristic into the landscape, but also your emotions?
It's a thought that, because in terms of how you take the landscape and sort of make it look overly gritty or something like that, make it look, always make it look bad, for example. So it's a bit like, I'm reminded of the whole Martin Parsing that's kicking off at the moment about his attitude towards people, and how he hasn't necessarily shown them in their best lights, which at the time he was taking the photos seems to have been okay, but now we're looking at it from a different perspective, and he's getting a hell of a lot of flack for it. But I don't know, it's quite a lot of the time I think I'm seeking out a certain look. I could turn around and take a picture of a flower, or I could wait for the sunset, or I could get up early in the morning and take some beautiful misty scenes. But they've been done again and again and again. So as I said, it's mute. It's if I was sort of taking photos of people, I see that as very much as a collaboration, because the person is given something of themselves and you're taking photos in a certain way, whereas the landscape, it's not a voice, it's there, it's been changed over the years, I appreciate all that. But yeah, I think it's the freedom of getting out as well, it ties in with the things I've sort of discussed earlier.
It's about an escape, really, isn't it? I think.
So just running away all the time, really.
That's okay. I think I think when you said about kind of wondering whether to make your work more personal, I think it's clear that that's how you do make work, and that's how you make work well, and I think you shouldn't worry about it being over personal, because I think that's how you feel that you can develop your practice and you feel comfortable making, and what makes you kind of the most inspired, then that works.
There's a sort of idea going through my head that there's lots of young women sort of like making photos of themselves and doing things, and they tend to be incredibly popular. But I'm not a young woman, I'm a middle-aged woman. I'm preparing to be, I'm preparing for visibility, basically. So who wants to hear? And I was like, well, no, sorry, I'm going to mention it. I'm going to do this. Everybody's got a story to tell. And I just hope that I can put something forward that resonates with other people. I love it when people say, that photo, it just got me there and I could feel this from it. And sometimes it's the same that I'm feeling, sometimes it's completely different. That doesn't matter necessarily. It doesn't. But if my photos can they should evoke some sort of emotional response, really, in some way, some sort of interest, something, you know, whether it's unusual or what. It's just, hopefully it gets other people to take photos themselves. I like that too.
Yeah, no, definitely, to inspire people as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so is there any more questions from anyone watching? Please ask away. Be great to kind of hear if you've got anything you want to know from Jacqui. So how have you found the East Meets West Masterclass? Do you think it's changed your way of approaching your work? Have you kind of, what's the biggest thing that you've really taken from it?
I've learnt that I don't know, the ideas of being a photographer is very different from being an artist in some ways, and that yeah, it was funny because I was hoping that it would keep me going over the next year, and I never realised this year to be so, you know, this year would be so busy, really. So only 6 weeks came past and I was like, oh, I've got another one. I was just got to you know, prepare for that, and I didn't quite anticipate the amount of amazing people we would talk to about our photos, and you know, I thought it was important to keep the momentum up after university. I might have been better having a year out and then going back to it, really, because the momentum continued. You know, it was quite fast, really, and I'd certainly worked relatively slowly up until the MA, and then had to pull my socks up a little bit, move a bit quicker. That said, I've got loads of notes from it. I've got loads of things to investigate, and I can spend the next few months going through that and, you know, making sure that I'm taking full advantage of all the amazing presentations. And I don't think this, hopefully, you know, this is sort of the start of it for us, because the publication is coming out probably in about a week's time.
See that.
People's doormats, yeah. These talks will go on until the 6th of August, and then we've got a photo cafe on the 19th of August as well, with Grains. So yeah, it's an ongoing thing. It's lovely to have communication with people and to be working with people, and hopefully we'll stick together as a group for a long time yet. So thank you.
Thank you so much for being part of it. I think this is a good thing to wrap up on now. Yeah, you kind of spoke really nicely about the masterclass, and like I said at the beginning, your group's been really so proactive, and it's been so nice to see how well you've worked as a group. And part of the masterclass, you've organised your publication on your own, and your website, so that's all kind of group led, and it's a really good chance for learning those skills and just for development with your practice and personal. So yeah, no, it's been brilliant. And so yeah, thank you, Jacqui. Thank you for being in conversation with me tonight. A few technical difficulties at the beginning, but we got there. It's fine, it's not your fault. So next week we have Joseph Allen Keyes. Oh no, not next week, Thursday, sorry. We have Joseph Allen Keyes, and he will be in conversation with Stephen Burke from Grain. So yeah, tune in Thursday, same place, same time, 8 o'clock. And yeah, these will be going on until August the 6th, I think it is. Correct me if I'm wrong, but right through till August. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining in, and thank you, Jacqui. It's been really, really great to hear more about your work.
Okay, thank you for talking to me. It's great. All right, thank you everybody for watching.
Thank you everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.